Hi everyone, and welcome back to Barkleaf Trees. In today's video we're going to be repotting these red maples. That's Acer rubrum. They're incredibly long looking plants at the moment, not really any character or anything really. They're just going to be put into these pond baskets. We're also going to be threading these bits of wood onto the trees. It's going to create some nicer surface roots in the long run, but I'll go into more depth about that later in the video. So let's get started. Obviously we just need to remove these nursery pots first. I haven't actually looked at these roots yet. These plants are actually from eBay, so they're only cheap. I think it was about £9. I think it was for both of them, I can't really remember. That one seems to have a lot more roots than the other one. Obviously we're just going to try and get as much of that nursery soil off as possible, because we're not going to be planting back into that. There's already a big root sticking up, that's obviously not going to look good. But eventually we're going to be cutting all of these off anyway and replacing them with something that should be a bit flatter and a bit more bonsai like. I won't worry too much either about being too careful at this stage. Just while I'm getting the soil off the root. The pots that I'm planting into obviously are pond baskets, so they're designed to be actually underwater. That's why the actual pot has holes on the sides and on the bottom, just to allow the water to pass through. But when you use this pot out of water, which is what I'm going to be doing, those holes actually act as root pruners instead. So when the root obviously normally grows to the inside of a nursery pot, it hits the inside of the nursery pot, and then it starts, either goes left or right or up or any way it really wants to go, and then just keeps growing. So then you end up with a whole pot full of circling roots. But with the pond basket, once it makes it to the edge, because it's exposed to the air, the root, the tip of the root actually dries out, which means it forces that same root to produce more side shooting roots, so more lateral roots, which is obviously more sought after, especially if you're trying to, in the long run, keep the root mass really small and compact. You don't want to have long roots with all of their fine roots at the end of them. You want it to be closer to the trunk. All I've done with that first tree is actually just chuck it in a bucket of water while I'm doing this second one. I don't want the roots drying out, and it just helps get that last bit of soil off as well. And we're just doing the same again with this tree. We're just trying to remove as much of the soil as possible. There's a lot more roots on this tree. I think most of them are going to be cut off anyway. It's not going to hurt it for me to trim down some of them roots. I think this one is pretty much done now as well. So I'll just chuck that in the bucket of water as well. Just just going to tidy the bench a little bit before I get the trees back out. Just take the stickers off these. Not try to anyway, because they're not going to come off properly. Now, because we're going to be putting the actual wood or the tree through the wood, in theory we're making the pot that is going into two halves. So you want one half for the root that is actually feeding the tree currently, which is the roots that I'm just trimming, and then the other half is space for the roots that are going to grow from above the wood once the trunk swells enough. So I'm having to trim the bottom part down just so that the top half will have enough space to grow when they do grow. So you can see it's still hitting them upwards facing roots. So I'll just trim them down a little bit more. And that can be pushed out. Now you can see that it's actually quite a good fit for the base of the stem. So what's going to happen is that's going to, obviously the tree's going to grow as is in this pot. That's why I was giving it a bit of a bigger pot, because I want the roots underneath the wood to feed the tree well, so that the tree actually grows quick and the tree thickens up quick. And what happens is it's the actual wood constrains the actual trunk of the tree, and it forces the part above the wood to create new roots to feed the tree, as the bottom half are being cut off because the wood is constraining it too much. And because obviously the wood is flat, the roots that will be produced from above should hopefully be nice and flat, which is what you want, especially in a maple. This bit of wood is actually already tight, it won't actually go all the way down to the roots. As you can see, on top will be the new tree, and we're going to cut that bottom part off completely. Hopefully it shouldn't take too long. I've never actually worked with this particular maple before, so I don't know how quick it grows. But with the room to grow and the fact that the pots dry out a lot quicker, so I'll be able to feed it and water it a lot faster, a lot more. It shouldn't be too long before I can actually cut that bottom part off. I'm just using the same mix I would use for any other maple, which is about a 70-30 ratio of akadama and grit, and then starting at a larger particle size at the bottom. I'm going to do a finer particle size above the wood, so hopefully it should create a finer mass of roots. Hopefully. Can only see with time, I suppose. If you kind of understand how an air layer works, you're kind of breaking the nutrient flow by cutting away obviously the cambium layer. This is basically the same. You're just disrupting the nutrient flow and forcing the tree, or giving the tree no choice but to produce roots above that point, or the tree will die. So normally the tree should actually produce the roots to survive As with nature, that's normally what it does. But not all the time, so obviously it's still a risk. But it should be quite good. If I'm hoping to make these into smallish trees. I'm not too sure how the leaf size reduces down, but I know they have a really nice autumn colour. But I suppose the smaller the pot, the smaller the leaf, so maybe it should actually reduce down quite okay. Now we're just going to move on to the smaller particle size. Hopefully when proper springtime comes around, they should look like more than just two sticks in a pot. If you're watching from the UK, you'll notice that those are mushroom trays from a supermarket. So don't throw those away, they come in quite handy, especially if you're only mixing up a small amount of soil. Obviously there's not any roots on above the wood for me to work the soil into. I'm not going to bother too much with a bit underneath. When I water it, it should kind of sort out all of that anyway. I'll be keeping everyone updated with the progress of these trees on my Instagram and on my Facebook. You'll find the link in the description to both of those. Should be quite interesting seeing how these actually turn out in the future. You can see that obviously the wood is now buried under all of that soil. And we're left with a pot with a stick in it. The early stages. I'll just do the same again. I think that's them both done. We're just obviously going to water them in. Keep an eye on my YouTube channel and my social media outlets. I will be posting more videos and obviously more content. I hope you enjoyed the video and thanks for watching.